but like the adrenaline rush of that 4 or 5 minute period where we took the building was just incredible. We've been planning for 2 months for this, and like everything was on the line. And there's a critical moment where it's like, if I don't clear this corner properly,
you could jeopardize everything.
Things could fail, right?
Yeah.
So like that's what Blackline's about. It's that moment. So,
hi everybody, Ryan from Siege Airsoft here. Today we're on episode 2 of the Chairsoft Chat podcast. I have with me Michael Bright, a friend of mine, and also a veteran airsoft player in the Ontario community. Last episode we featured Zimming Wan from Black Blitz Airsoft, so if you haven't seen that, check that out. There's some pretty important information on C21, and we're going to go over that soon. So what kind of history do you have with airsoft, and how long you've been playing? How'd you get into it? All that kind of general stuff. Just introduce yourself, and you know what you would say to a new person that says, "Who are you?" You know, if they go to a game and all that great kind of icebreaker stuff.
Sure. So I've been playing about 8 years now. I got into airsoft because I was missing something in my life, and we were talking earlier, and I mentioned that I did a lot of martial arts in my 20s and 30s.
Mm-hmm.
I developed a neck injury, which put a stop to that, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that I missed the training element of that.
Yeah.
And I missed the sparring element of it.
Yeah.
So airsoft was a way to replace that. And so that's kind of why I got it. And I'd played paintball for a long time before that, so the shooting element was already something I was familiar with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I was interested in firearms, and I was a bit of a gear nerd, so that just makes airsoft a natural fit for me.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of people can relate to coming from one sport to another and having that desire for competition, athleticism, training, all that good stuff. So in terms of your history with actually paintball, I find that kind of interesting because I actually came from paintball as well way back. You know, I used to play a bit, attend some rental games, had a T98 with one of those kits, like I don't remember what it was called. Anyways, and then I got into airsoft because a friend told me about it from Korea, and he's like, "You know what airsoft is?" And I'm like, "No." He showed me all the cool looking guns, and I'm like, "Okay, that's why I want to get into it." So for you, what made you kind of make the switch, and what kind of happened, and what was your history with paintball going into airsoft? That's something that might be a little bit interesting.
So there was a gap between paintball and airsoft for me where I was into martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got into paintball, I got into it the year I graduated high school, so I was 91, so it was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I got in when paintball was still very new.
Mm-hmm.
I had my first gun was a Tippmann 68 Special, which was one of the first practical semi-autos on the market. Guys were starting around with like Piranhas and converted pump guns where they just attached CO2 tanks for them as opposed to 12 grab and stuff. And I played through the development of the sport where speedball and tournament paintball became a thing.
Yeah.
So I was one of the first guys in the Maritimes that really got into tournament paintball. I played for a big team called Spikes 5150 down there, and we were sending guys out to like the NPPL, like the National Professional Paintball League.
Mm-hmm.
I never got to do that. I did play at the first Skyball here in Toronto many years ago.
Is that the one in the Sky Dome?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, it was
man.
the first time on the Sky Dome.
That was like a legendary thing that I heard about, and I'm just imagining playing airsoft.
It was an amazing experience.
In the Sky Dome, it was just called the Rogers Center now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't watch sports, as you can tell.
So that was
that's
when,
crazy.
The inflatable bunkers that exist now had just become a thing.
Yeah.
And they bought a cheap set of them, and they were deflating in games. So I remember like being on the field playing a team, and like holding a corner with my autococker, and the bunker was deflating, and I was crouching behind it, trying to stay in cover as the bunker slowly tilted over type thing. So,
yeah, movable cover. It moves on its own. That's definitely a feature nowadays.
It was a pretty wild experience. I really love those days.
Yeah.
I got out of paintball. I went into martial arts, and I did that for a long time. Like I said, until I messed up my neck. I was into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and stuff like that. And you can't really do that if your neck is a disaster like mine is.
Yeah, I'm thankful that you're still here. I'm thankful you don't have like a CTE or some other crazy head-related injury.
Yeah, mine was over time pulling out of headlocks and stuff.
More chronic?
Yeah.
Okay.
It did damage. Apparently, it's pretty common.
Yeah.
And then, I went a period of time where I wasn't really doing any of that stuff, and then I discovered I'd known about airsoft for a long time. I'd seen the airsoft guns back when I was a paintball player.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get in. And when I went to work at Canadian Tire corporate office, one of the people who works there was married to Witch Doctor. Chris Carangis.
Yeah,
his wife
Low
works.
Impact now.
Yeah,
okay,
Low
cool,
Impact. Yeah,
cool.
So his wife worked right beside me, and she said, "My husband has this weird hobby. You wouldn't understand." I'm like, "Well, try me." She said, "He's into airsoft." I'm like, "I know about airsoft."
Yeah.
And so we started talking. I went and met Chris, and he kind of got me into the sport.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm sure we all have stories like that where we kind of meet like our mentor figure or the person to introduce us into stuff and kind of open this crazy big world of airsoft. So you've been playing for a long time, obviously, and kind of as you progress from paintball to airsoft, like what kind of airsoft do you normally do, and what kind of things have you kind of progressed into since
Sure.
starting off? 8 years is a long time. Most of maybe some of our audience is just 8 years old, and maybe some of them have only been airsofting for the past 1 or 2 years. And I know from Zimming's last video we talked about it's changed a lot since then. But when you first started getting into it, what kind of style did you play? Did you start a team? What kind of games did you go to? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I started a team with Chris and some other guys almost right away, the Dire Wolves.
Yeah.
And we did a lot of CQB, and we were very focused on training. So like a lot of time, less time gaming, more time working on CQB tactics. I've trained with a lot of police instructors and military instructors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like I said, it replaced the training aspect of martial arts for me.
Yeah.
And then after I got into Blackline and I started doing that, things changed a bit because I saw that there was a need for guys that could do reconnaissance really well.
More than just shooting, right?
More than just shooting.
Yeah.
And that doing reconnaissance properly was really hard.
Yeah.
Really hard. So I put some thought into that, talked to some guys, and I decided the way to go forward would be to focus on sniping as a discipline. So I'd already done an ASC sniper cert, my level 2 with Shado. It was like serious old school airsoft.
Yeah, Airsoft Canada days.
Yeah, so I'd reached out to him to run like a recce training session for my team, and I learned a bunch from that. And then Blackline ran a sniper 2-day weekend with the Canadian Forces active duty sniper.
That's cool.
It was a cool experience. It was like drinking from a fire hose. Like there was a ton of information over the 2 days. We did stocks. We learned a lot of stuff. And I came back from that and I was like, okay, so what was most important about what I learned? What's the best way to train ourselves? And we started doing stocks constantly. So I got more and more into the sniping thing. And so when guys talk to me about sniping, I have been, up until recently, less concerned with the shooting part of it and more concerned with the being as invisible as possible part of it.
Okay.
So my thing is like how to build ghillie suits, how to sneak up on somebody, how camouflage works. I spend a ton of time on different kinds of camouflage. I'm kind of a nerd about that.
No, that's awesome.
Very strong opinions about what camo works and what camo doesn't. Top tip, multicam is garbage. Despite what most of the community thinks. And then more recently, since I got involved with my buddy Craig and we have been doing some other stuff, we've gotten more into the shooting aspect of it. So like we're shooting out past 500 feet effectively now. Which was thought impossible basically at one point. And we've become more and more into that aspect of it.
Yeah, especially with COVID and everything going on, lately, there's so much to learn. Like now is a perfect opportunity to learn.
To nerd out.
To nerd out, learn, practice. What, I would do, I'm more of an indoor player and more of like a CQB player for like dry firing and stuff like that. You guys are probably doing with like building hides and doing research about that kind of stuff. Just take it back a few steps for some of our viewers out there. What exactly is Blackline? I participate in it, and I know you're quite a bit more involved in it than I am. So if you were to explain it just a bit so that people don't hear this word and it's basically like, ooh, what's that? What is Blackline? What do they kind of do?
So the way I explain it to people is that like a lot of people get into airsoft and they watch an example of like they watch an episode of SEAL Team.
Yes.
And they're like, I want to do that. And you come to play airsoft.
Yes.
And it's not that. It's not that at all, right? It's nothing to do with that. It's more like playing Call of Duty, right?
Yes. It's more like playing Call of Duty. Everybody's kind of a one-man hero. The montages, all that crazy stuff. I mean,
right. So
we're at Siege. We know what it is.
And that's fine. But I wanted to do the stuff that I saw on SEAL Team or in a Jason Bourne movie and stuff like that. I was into that kind of stuff, right? And so Blackline does that. Blackline is entirely mission-focused. And it's not the kind of thing that, when you say like it's mission focused, most of the officers are like, they go to Milsim and they're told, well, you have to go to this place and capture this flag or get this thing, and it's a very simple mission. Blackline missions often take months to plan, and that's really my favorite part of it. I like planning, and then they're usually very complex. They feel very realistic, and because it's not a score based system. It's entirely pass fail. Either you accomplish the mission or you don't.
Yes,
it feels very real.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know what it feels like to be shot at for real. I'm not suggesting that's what it's about.
Yeah.
But you become very invested in the success
It's
of the mission.
immersive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super immersive, right?
And so that's what Blackline is. So it's a series of events. It's usually 1 or 2 per year. And then a series of smaller, typically training events. Because what was discovered pretty quickly with Blackline is that like it's cool to try and do these really complicated special forces style missions, but like we are not members of SEAL Team 6.
Yeah.
Right. I'm a civilian dude who's kind of out of weight, or coming out of shape, a bit overweight. And
well, you've done a lot of good stuff, Bacon. To interject,
Yeah.
Bacon is Michael's kind of call sign, and he used to be a lot more out of shape recently, and he's been like posting his rucking and doing all these, this workout and all this like great stuff, and super commendable for you to like improve your health, and I find it really inspiring, to be honest. And my parents are about the same age as you, and I'm like, God damn, Dad, you're not doing any of this cool stuff.
I joke with the few friends that still have my age.
Yeah.
I joke about my Friday night and Saturday nights are probably not like yours. I'm usually out someplace.
I see you like rocking and doing cool stuff, and then I look at my dad. He's just like watching the sports ball game, and I'm like,
yeah,
damn, Dad, like you should be getting out. You should be getting some. But yeah, I did attend a few Blackline events, and I learned that pretty quick, that everybody wants to do the soft shit, but then they don't want to do the grunt shit.
Exactly.
And the grunt shit is like the rucking, the moving stuff around, and I don't want to equate it to obviously people that serve, but for people looking for that kind of immersive experience. So Blackline's really cool. What would be one of the kind of experiences? Like, how would you describe Blackline op? Can you give me like a rundown of one? I've been to one recently, the helicopter one, but
yeah, it was really cool.
It was awesome, and we're gonna have a cool video for that coming really soon. But for you did something pretty sweet as well. Can you explain that?
Yeah. So one of the coolest Blackline events I've done was the theater raid a couple years ago. And so for the theater raid, we were tasked with finding a bomb making factory located somewhere in Toronto. And we were given a bunch of intelligence about a courier. And the courier, from what we understood, was taking messages from one part of a terrorist cell to the guys at the bomb-making factory. And there was a dead drop he was using in Toronto to pick up the messages. So we were told where that was. And then we received some intelligence that showed it was supposedly his stripped cell phone information. So it kind of showed where he was moving to, different points. But it didn't give us the full picture of where the actual factory was. So we kind of had an expectation of what his route might be. And so then the task force split into 2 groups. So one group was the assault force, who would be tasked with taking down the factory when we found it.
Okay. And
then the second group was the surveillance unit, which I led. And so our job was we had to stake out the dead drop in downtown Toronto. And when he emptied the dead drop, we had to follow him to the bomb making factory. So we followed him all the way from up north of the Toronto Center, or Deaton Center, onto a GO train. One of our guys got on the GO train with him. Another guy got a full photo of him sitting on the GO train without him realizing we were there. We followed him. The rest of us got in cars and followed, leaped ahead station to station as he went by station. He went all the way out to Oakville, got off there, and then we followed him on foot and in cars through Oakville until he went to the actual factory.
Okay.
And then we were able to identify that. And at that point, the assault team was called in. And at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, over 30 of us attacked this building. And so this, to kind of explain how complicated this was to pull off, this was an old theater that was attached to a strip mall.
Yeah.
And it was a busy place. So there were a lot of rules about how we moved with gear and stuff. So nobody had guns ready to be used. Everything was still cased.
Yeah.
You couldn't wear obvious tactical kits. Like when I went in, I had a microfight on with a big jacket over it, and I had my M4 in a duffel bag type thing, right? And
this is a controlled environment, everybody. Don't do this normally, okay, please. This is super controlled, and they let all the proper agencies and stuff know before we do this.
So the police were involved when we were there.
Yeah, it's not like some random backyard game for sure. Just so you guys know, because I know you guys are gonna have questions about that.
So my unit wasn't supposed to go into the theater unless things went wrong. We were like a reserve because we didn't have.
You're like a QRF, right? Yeah. Okay.
So about a minute after the first team ended, I was listening to the comms, and I could hear compromise came over the comms from Jeremy, from one of the leaders, right? And I'm like, there's a problem. So I said to the guys, I'm like, get ready, we're going to have to go in. And then I heard the second team go, we're going to the front entrance, which was our thing. I'm like, we got to go now. So my unit got up, and we walked through the parking lot. So I'm carrying the duffel bag with my gun and stuff, and I'm saying to myself, don't run, because I don't want to attract attention to us.
Yeah.
And we got out and I could see the other team starting to make entry to the front. And how it worked is there was a front room, about the size of this room, that would go into, and once we were all in, we'd close the door and then we could gear up. Because we wanted people on the street to see that happening, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because even though the police knew about it, you still don't want to have...
You don't want to have any incidences, and you don't want to have like any people taking pictures and posting on social media and misrepresenting us. We'll get into that in a bit.
Yeah.
But,
So I got in, and I'm watching the TAC guys get up, and those guys have like plate carriers, helmets, night vision, gas masks. Like they're against the wall.
They're assaulting.
They're assaulting. I have a microfight and a rifle, and I can see one of the dudes who is similarly equipped. He's already standing at the threshold waiting to go with just a handgun. By himself. And I'm like, I got to back him up. So like I whipped my coat off, pulled my rifle out, pulled my sling on, ripped my comms gear out, and like got up behind this guy and touched his shoulder, telling him I was there, and he's like, I'm gonna step out and organize, because he was the 2IC of the assault element.
Okay.
I'm like, good. So he stepped out, and I'm standing watching the corner, and I can hear all these guys getting ready. I can hear someone moving inside, and so I'm like, I gotta be ready. And as I'm doing that, I'm pulling these light pucks, they're like a flashlight thing, out of my kit, and I'm turning them on with one hand and throwing them into different parts of the room that I can see to light it up, right? And then so the 2IC from the assault element gets the guys organized behind me, and he comes up in my ear and he's like, we're going to do dynamic entry. And like, so dynamic entry, as you know, is like when you rush into a thing. It's 90s SWAT stuff. And it's
speed of security.
It's speed of security, but it gets everyone killed.
Yes.
And I'm like, so I'm going to be the first guy in. This guy, whoever's in that room that I can hear, knows I'm here. This is going to suck. Right? So I get ready, and I get, they squeeze up, so the guy behind me squeezes my shoulder.
I know exactly what you feel.
And so, like, now everything's on the line, because I can hear the gunfight happening inside. Like, the other element's pinned down, right? We got to get in there. I'm like, guy squeezes my shoulder. I'm like, step around the corner, and there's 2 doorways and a corner. And I'm swinging my rifle as fast as I can to like clear them, and I can fucking see the guy out of the corner of my eyes, crouched down in the corner. I'm like, damn it. I just about got my rifle on him, and he shoots me. So I fall down, because Blackline rules, you don't call hit, you have medicine cards. So the consequence for me is I got to do self-aid before I do anything. So I fall down. The guy behind me, who's another teammate, he falls down, and then I see this poor dude in the corner get hit by 16 guys. There's this wave of PBs go over my head, right?
Well, that's why dynamic sometimes is good.
Right? So we got in. I'm laying there, and so this was a learning moment for me. I'm trying to get my tourniquet out to apply first aid to my arm, right? And I didn't have my tourniquet stowed properly, so it's stuck together. And I can't use this arm, so I'm like, as the assault force is walking literally over me, I'm trying to unscrew this tourniquet, like biting on it, and I get it partway on, and I'm like, I can't get this to work right. And finally, they can't stop because they got to get into the building, right? I'm on my own. Finally, like, the line stops as they hit the next threshold, and the guy over me, I'm like, can you help me for a sec, dude? He's like, what's wrong? I'm like, my tourniquet is all screwed up. And so he got it on me, and I get up and I can't use one arm, so now I've got my M4 in one arm. And I join like the conga line of guys working in the building, and I see another teammate who's just got a handgun. And I'm like, give me the handgun, take my M4. Right? So I've now got a Glock, and he's going forward.
But now if you have one hand,
now I can handle it with one hand, right? Because M4 is not a big gun, but it's not easy to shoot one hand.
It's a rifle. It's still a two-handed long gun.
So we got in, and I never fired a shot, but like the adrenaline rush of that 4 or 5 minute period where we took the building was just incredible. Because, we've been planning for 2 months for this. And, like, everything was on the line. And there's a critical moment where it's like, if I don't clear this corner properly...
You could jeopardize everything.
Things could fail, right? So, like, that's what Blackline's about. It's that moment. So it's not like getting into... You're not trying to get into multiple gunfights. It's that the one gunfight you get into really, really matters. Right? And there's consequences. It's not like a regular airsoft game where, like, I'll just do something crazy and run up there and get shot because then I respawn. Right? There's the medicine rules in part consequence. Look, if you or me are working together on a mission and I do something stupid and I go down, you might not be able to complete the mission by yourself.
And that'll be a failure.
Right? And that'll be a failure. Or the consequence of that might be you can complete the mission, but you could extract me, so now you have to drag my big body because I can't stand up and walk with you. I'm hurt. You got to drag me back to the extraction point, right? Or I get to lay there for hours until whatever happens.
Comes, something like that.
So it makes everything more important.
And I've been to a training for Blackline that was really interesting, and that's when I really learned about the medicine rules, which I thought was a really immersive part. Is you basically in some of the Blackline events, the one with the helicopter we didn't get it, but in some of them, I would say most of them, you get a card basically, and it tells you about what parts of the body you get hit. It's basically split into head, torso, legs, and arms. Something like that, right? And it's like there's different statuses for each one to kind of simulate, like, if you get hit, you're not really sure how that bullet is going to incapacitate you, because you can get shot in the chest and you can live, and you get shot in the chest and you can die.
Yeah,
and
so the cards are all different.
Yeah, so the cards are all different. You're not supposed to really share it. It's kind of like secret information, kind of like a hidden role-playing game if you ever played that. And through that, it creates like another layer of immersion that, oh shit, my arm is shot, and this would happen in the training event. My arm got shot out, and I forgot that you can self-heal in Blackline, because my first time attending one, and I was just like one-handing my M4 like bionic commando, just like shooting people, and that was awesome, and that was more fun than I've ever had, like doing some other events, because it was just the gravity of the conflict was way bigger, and that's so cool. Yeah.
And then to give you an idea about the immersion of that, because the way the Med-Science Center was designed, Sean wanted people to get reps at doing kind of trauma medicine to a certain degree.
Yeah.
So a whole pile of like the regular Blackline guys are all trained in stop the bleed.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Yeah.
So like, for example,
we actually plan to offer stop the bleed at Siege once we reopen up. Oh, look at that.
I carry a tourniquet all the time now, because you never
why
know
not,
when that might become an issue, right?
Yeah.
And that's actually common, and it builds on the realism that the guys around you will behave as if you have an actual injury.
Yeah. Right? It's really cool. It's almost like a skill building with Airsoft as the kind of way to apply it, but the stuff that you learn through Blackline is super cool. Like, I went to a radio course with Sean that he does online now, and they're probably going to post another one, so give their website or give their Facebook page a visit. And I learned how to use radios properly, and it's not just about how to program your Baofeng, because you can look that up online.
It's how to talk.
But it's about how to talk. And one big takeaway was it's push to talk, not push to think.
Yeah.
And then what happened was, during the helicopter thing, Phil, if you're watching this, his comms gear had a malfunction, and because I was beside him, I became the radio guy.
Yeah.
And then all those skills, I fucked up a little bit with a few of the words and stuff like that, and he got a little angry at me because we were hiking through waist deep snow. More to come on that later, but I managed to kind of help him communicate what he needed to get to Jeremy, who was 2IC, for us to organize the ambush. And yeah, that was cool. And like, if I did not learn that, I would have, I think, fumbled a lot more, because we're hiking through waist deep snow. Everybody's tired. We're tripping all the time. We have people that are like falling behind. We're not sure if like people are okay and everything like that. And those skills probably helped keep everybody safe, and that was cool as hell. So just to go back to some things, we're kind of bouncing back and forth between airsoft topics. You mentioned that you're now more into sniping, and this kind of strikes a certain chord with me, not gonna lie, because we do have we cater to a lot of new players here, because we're in the heart of Toronto, we're a big field, and we're Midland Avenue in Toronto, Scarborough, if you don't know, is known as kind of like Airsoft Street, because you have like us, and you have like a bunch of stores up the street from us too. It's like your one-stop shop, basically. So a lot of new players, obviously, when they get into airsoft, they get into my eyes got something in it. They want to get into sniping, being a sniper, because video games, because movies, because of that one shot, one kill kind of thing. And it's a really hot field, but because you've been into it in a bit more of a serious way, and actually have applied these things, and not just bringing an L96 to Siege and complaining about how it doesn't really work in our field, like what kind of how would you explain the path, and how would you explain kind of like getting through that and being involved with that for airsoft, and like what you've learned and all that stuff? Because now you're working with Craig with ELR. Yeah, it's a lot of questions, but how would you go about kind of that stuff?
So my advice to brand new players is not to go and buy a sniper as your first gun. And the reason for that is that, well, there's a few reasons, but one is that a stock sniper has no more range than a typical AEG.
Yes.
So you're stuck with a bolt-action, slow-firing rifle, competing with people who can shoot exactly the same level of accuracy as you, but rapidly. That's not going to be fun.
Yes.
The second thing is, like, sniping, particularly in skirmish games where you're in closer to people a lot, it's hard. Being invisible and stalking and stuff, like, that's a learned skill. And in order to do that effectively in those games, you need to know how the games work to begin with. Mm-hmm. So if you're coming in brand new, you don't know any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. And what I see is kids go, or not even kids, new people go and buy a sniper rifle. They go and play games.
A lot of adults too, don't get me wrong.
And they're like, this sucks.
Yeah.
And they stop playing.
Yeah, they stop playing airsoft altogether because the veil has been pulled from their eyes, you know?
Yeah. And so don't do that. what you want to do if you're interested in that is you get into airsoft, you buy an M4 or an AK, something common, buy your basic gear, and you play for a year, and you'll learn how the game works at a basic level, right? And then if you want to be a sniper, then you go and you buy that, and you start working on that. And there's tons of resources, online. There's all kinds of stuff that you can learn about this stuff. And then for us, there's some different routes to go into it. So I teach the Airsoft Canada Sniper certification.
Yeah, you actually taught a course here a little while ago.
Last year.
Right before all
COVID.
this shit went down. Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah.
And so that course at its heart is a safety course that makes sure that you are someone who's responsible enough to use a higher velocity rifle in play without hurting someone.
In games that recognize that.
Right? So the other part of that course, though, is so when I teach it, each instructor kind of has their own take on it. So my take, it's similar to Shadows, who taught me, but I focus a lot on, and me and Craig teaches it with me. So we start with how to zero your rifle, basic marksmanship, because surprisingly, a lot of people that want to be snipers have rifles that they've never zeroed and they don't know how to.
That is not just a sniper problem,
Everything.
That is an airsoft problem, and I can go on for days about that.
So we teach guys how to do that. We teach them the basics of shooting, and then we go into range estimation, which is the key part of the safety element. You need to know how far away someone is from you. And then we cover ghillie construction, so that's my big thing in sniping.
Yeah, you do a lot of ghillie and hide stuff. Yeah, it's cool.
So we cover that, and then we cover a stock. So a stock, stocks are fun. So the way we do it is there's an observer, there's snipers, and there's walkers. So like the observer will sit beside a target we've set up on the field.
Yep.
The snipers will start at the far end of the field, and they will have a certain time frame where they have to crawl up to a position where they can shoot the target successfully. The walkers kind of at this point just stand on the sides of the field. The observer will try and spot them. If they think they see someone, they'll call freeze. And if they call freeze, whatever position you're in, you just have to stop there. The observer will then try to describe to the walker where you are. They'll try to walk him onto you.
Okay.
And if they succeed, you lose.
Okay.
If they don't, we call carry on.
So it's not a game about. It's not like an exercise about shooting at all. It's just about
getting in position to shoot.
Getting in position. Yeah.
So it teaches you how to move without being seen.
Yeah.
Right. So like when I first started this, as everybody was, like I was not good at it. Type thing, right?
You just can't be. You don't have these kind of skills.
I learned some key things. So like I talked about the course I went to with the Canadian Forces Sniper, and one of the key points he made was that the key to being invisible is keeping stuff between you and the person that you're trying to hide from. Right. Camouflage is really secondary. So like initially I focused heavily on building camouflage.
Yeah.
Now if I want to sneak up on you in the woods, I could do it wearing this.
Okay.
Because I understand how to do it properly.
Cool.
Right?
That's actually
camouflage covers mistakes. That's what it's for.
So it's almost like a security blanket.
Exactly.
And then the actual skills is just the not being seen in the first place.
Right. So so to go back a bit, so when we talk about people who just get into sniping, a lot of them are like, I'm gonna go buy a ghillie suit off of Amazon. That suit won't make you a sniper.
Chewbacca mode.
The Chewbacca mode. Yeah. One, those suits are the wrong thing for what we're doing. They're a pain to move with. They're almost invariably the wrong color for our environment.
Yep.
But putting one of those on won't hide you.
Yeah.
It's about the skill of knowing how to hide.
I kind of see your guys. I don't even wear like big ghillie suits.
No, I wear a hood.
Yeah,
so
I
wear
like
a hood and my
right?
shoulders.
Yeah.
And sometimes I wear leaf suits that have like 3D leaves.
The leaf suits are awesome. Yeah. They're awesome.
And there's a lot of guys that are really, really into crafting those now. And like they're to the point where like if you walked up and they were laying down on the ground, you'd never see them. They just look like the forest floor.
Yeah, that's cool as hell.
And that is super cool. Yeah. So that's the stuff I like. So that's what we teach in the course. We teach the tactics of the stock. And the idea is you're not going to become an expert sniper in airsoft terms in that one course. But you're going to go away with a blueprint that you can follow to make yourself better at it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yes. And then that kind of leads into other things. So like your end goal might be just to play a sniper in a skirmish, in which case, learning the range estimation, learning the marksmanship will help, learning the basics of stalking will help, understanding how ghillies are supposed to work, how you should use them, that'll help. But you can go beyond that. So I run hunteering events, for example.
Yeah, and this is something that I wanted to ask you about, because when people think of airsoft, it's like skirmishing, speed soft, milsim, maybe competition shooting, but there's so much more to it than that.
Right.
And so hunteering is one of them. Yeah.
Hunteering is a different game mode. So how they work, they're a 24-hour game. So let's say you have 5 hunteers. That's the term for their competitors.
Okay.
So if you have 5 hunteers, you would be given a map if you were one of the hunteers, and it would have 7 positions marked on the map.
Okay.
Yours would be circled, right? And what would happen is when the game starts, in 10-minute increments, we send people out to their start points, this sort of thing. You get there and you hang a flag and you write like a letter and number combo on it. And what that's used for is when the other hunters find your flag, they write that down to confirm that they did it.
Okay.
Over the 24 hours, you have to find all of the other competitors, all the hunters' flags.
Okay.
You lose points for everyone you don't find. So what's happening is you have to move around this field that's populated by a group of other snipers, essentially, who are wearing camouflage, who are good at stalking, who are trying to accomplish the same thing. You get points if you shoot them. They get points if they shoot you.
Okay.
There's also typically a couple counter huntiers. So a hunter would have a bolt-action rifle, would have 2 mags with a limited number of rounds, have a handgun with 2 mags. So like it's not a big gunfight game.
Yeah.
Your ammo's limited.
You maybe only carry 100 rounds.
Less
in
than
the game. Less than that, yeah.
So the counter hunters will have a semi-automatic rifle with about the same amount of ammo, but they obviously with the semi-auto will be more effective in an actual firefight, right? And their job is exclusively to hunt the hunters. So we call them counter hunters.
Yeah.
So you do this for 24 hours. The last 90 minutes, the counter hunters set up one target. They'll radio all the hunters where that is, and as a hunter, your job then is to get there, shoot it, and make it to the safe zone without being shot, and you get points for all those things. It's a really cool game because there's a lot of strategy. There's a lot of fieldcraft involved because you want to be able to move quietly.
Yeah.
You need to understand how to do land nav on your own.
Yeah.
Because you have to move to specific points. And so we do it at ALR right now, and you've got ALR, it's thick.
Yeah.
Right? So if you don't go to the right spot, you might be within 20 feet of the flag, you won't find it, right? Because it's too thick. The other cool part of it is that it for guys who already have those kind of skills, allows them to practice them.
Yeah.
But for people who are new, it teaches them very rapidly. So what we saw last year, really the first year we ran it, is guys would show up with a giant ruck with everything but the kitchen sink on their pack.
Yeah.
Because they're going to stay out overnight.
Yeah.
Right? And they set up almost like a pup tent in the field, and they've got everything.
Yeah,
and,
I was hearing about this. Yeah.
So the problem with that is one, it's a lot of weight to carry for 24 hours. 2, it's hard to sneak up on someone carrying a big pack.
Yes.
3, when you set up that kind of
a camp,
that's an easy thing to spot.
Yeah.
So one of our mutual friends, who we call LC Man,
yes,
he played that.
Yes.
He showed up and he went out with a little pack on his back with food and water and no shelter gear and his guns. And he spent the entire 24 hours moving. We had these 3 thunderstorms, so it got cold. It didn't stop him at all. He spent 4 hours crawling up another hunter's camp, crawled into the dude's tent, and knife killed him in the middle of the night.
I heard about this.
Right?
I heard about this. Yes, I heard about this.
So you get those different levels of skill. And what happens is I watch guys, so our friend Phil, right? He is big into hunting.
Yeah, he is.
And every event, hey buddy, every event he went to, his kit got smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
As he's I don't need this, I don't need that.
He just runs an MP9.
Yeah. So he has fun with an MP9, a very small pack.
Yeah.
And it's no one's carrying a tent now. It's all tarp camping and stuff.
Yeah.
My kit, I have a tent, but not a tent. I have a tarp, but I have a bug mesh that I can set up.
Yeah, that's important.
And that's all I would set up in the field unless there's going to be weather, is that, just so I don't get eaten alive.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
But it really improves those skills, and it is an amazingly fun game. So if you're into sniping, that's one way to build those things.
Yeah, that's something that I want to try. It seems really cool.
We're hoping to get more and more guys out for that this year.
Yeah, and stay tuned for that. We might have some video coming out for that if one of us attends. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah. Hunteering, pretty interesting. Really different kind of activity. Really different from what most people are used to in airsoft, and it kind of goes to show that airsoft is just a tool, and it's the experiences that you create around it that really allow you to use it in different ways.
Yep.
You probably can't even take a full advantage of sniping in airsoft if there wasn't an event like this. I would say maybe.
No, that's one of the reasons I got into it, because I wanted guys to actually be able to do the sniper role fully.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Blackline is starting to provide opportunities to do it more fully.
Yeah.
A more mission oriented stuff, but Hunteering allows you to go out and actually practice all of the skills.
It's a terrible thing to say, because you can cut this out if they don't like it, but it's human hunting in a way, in a way, yeah. Very easily for some people to take that out of context, but yes. For me, it reminds me actually of kind of like a battle royale kind of thing, where you ever play Tarkov. I don't play these kinds of games actually. I'm not really into video games anymore because I just find that I want to do real stuff. But you get put into a place, you have to you get what you get, and you have to complete these basic kind of missions where people will kill you over your bag of beans or something. It's kind of like that, which is really interesting. But yeah, jumping a little back too is you were talking about Craig, and Craig's an old friend of mine. Used to play with him at Kitchener when I went to the university there, and he's a great guy. You guys are starting like ELR and stuff like that. So what is that exactly?
So we're doing a few things together.
Yeah.
So Craig has been my assistant instructor for the ASC cert for the last year or so.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to become a full instructor this year.
Awesome.
But we're going to keep working together because we between the two of us, we've worked out a really good course.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Craig is a guy that he's like me. He's like utterly serious about this stuff.
Yeah.
He is one of the best shots I've ever seen in airsoft.
Yeah.
And one of the best stalkers. Like, so it's hard to sneak up on me like during a stalk now.
Mm.
And the first time Craig stalked, I was sitting targets beside me, and I was looking over there. I'm like, he's over there, and he was right there, and he shot right across my nose at the target, and I actually jumped because I completely lost track of where he was. Right.
Yeah.
So the two of us working together, because we have this shared interest, we've come up with some cool stuff. So one of them is we started a shop called ELR Airsoft.
Awesome.
Which it's designed just to cater to snipers.
That's cool.
So our inventory primarily right now is we're still building it out because it's just started. And our timing's great with C21, right?
Yeah, we'll get into that very shortly.
Yeah.
But
so we're carrying the upgrade kits that you need, all the parts you need to upgrade your bolt action rifles, and we're continuing to add to that inventory. So we've got a lot of suppliers. We've got their stuff coming in. If we don't have it now, we will soon.
Yeah.
We're carrying the heavyweight BBs.
Yeah.
We're going to be carrying a few bolt action rifles.
Yeah.
But our primary focus is the upgrade stuff, so you can build a high quality bolt action rifle, right? And then the other part of that, so Craig is a very good gun tech. I am not yet. I'm learning, but he's the master of that. So he's good at that part of it. What I'm good at, as we talked about earlier, is the camouflage stuff. So we're going to be bringing in different kinds of Viper hoods, the materials you need to build those.
Sweet.
The leaf suits, that kind of stuff. So we're going to have all that kind of stuff in one shop. There are shops in Europe like Skirm Shop that do the same kind of thing. That's basically what we're trying to do here.
But it doesn't exist here yet. And
it doesn't exist here yet.
And you're tapping into a market that is new, essentially, because most people don't know about hunteering. Most people don't know about airsoft sniping. They just think airsoft sniping is some like Nov stuff, which is fine, sure, whatever. But
Nov's
it's like
a great sniper for what he does.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe more of a marksman, you might say. But like for this kind of slow stock like thing, there's nothing that really exists for that. And especially for living in Canada, it's so freaking hard to get good parts for certain guns.
Yeah.
If it's not a V2 gearbox, good luck, essentially.
Yes. So there's been months of building up to this, particularly in Craig in particular, like calling suppliers, developing relationships, researching like where this stuff comes from. And
Craig
so
got a really sweet SRS Silverback.
He does.
Yeah,
his gun is pretty awesome.
That gun's sick. I've seen it a few times.
We're going to build out my rifle soon.
What do you got?
Well, so I don't have any. I have an L96 right now, but that's not going to be the end platform because the L96 was my favorite real sniper rifle.
Yeah. It's a lot of people's favorite for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, but it's not a great platform in terms of, from my perspective, in terms of like the structural integrity of it. It's not a super well built gun.
Yeah, at least not the airsoft one.
Not the airsoft one. The real one, absolutely. But so I'm looking at, I think it's a T10 that I can't remember the name of the manufacturer anyway. So there's a particular one's a VSR based model. I'm going to go off one of those.
Okay.
But his SRS is unreal.
Yeah.
Right now.
I've yet to shoot it when it's fully kitted out.
That's the one we're doing the extreme long range stuff with.
Yeah.
So we shot.
So that's what ELR stands for, right?
Extreme long range.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah.
So we shot. The first time we went out and tried to do that, we had a target at 334 feet, which is pretty far for an airsoft
That's
rifle.
farther than most airsoft guns can reach. Yeah, for sure.
And so Craig was on the gun initially, and I was down by the target because the way we do this is we have a guy down by the target calling where the rounds are landing while we zero it and figure out it.
Yeah.
So he'd figured it out, and he has an FSR riser, so it's a riser that tilts.
We'll put a picture of that up. It's really weird looking, and a lot
Everyone's
of people
like, why are you doing that?
A lot of people are chirping it, but I totally see why you use it.
So the logic is like when we're shooting at long range, you're arcing your shots, right? And so with a regular scope, you're using the mil dots or your gradients in it to try and hold above a target. With an FSR, it has MOA adjustment, so you adjust it. Yeah. So you're actually pointing with your crosshairs right at where you're trying to think. Yeah. But the scope's tilted, so your barrel's up, right?
I got a picture of Craig's rifle somewhere on Facebook. We'll put it on.
So he'd figured it out, and he'd managed to hit the target at 334 feet multiple times. And then I went up. He's like, "You want to take the shot?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I sat down, and he said, "Hold at the top dead center of the target. That'll go in, right?" So 333 feet's a hard shot. So the first time,
that's longer than the length of Siege.
Yeah.
Siege 250, I believe.
Yeah.
So like, or 220, something like that. So that's like another 100 feet on top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I sat down, and I'm not familiar with his gun. Like he'd set up differently. And Craig has so the funny thing is Craig wears glasses, so the eye relief for him for a scope is radically different than mine. So if you ever see pictures of me, you see
so his
gun,
diopter is adjusted.
It's weird, right? So I'm always like cranking my head around trying to get it out. So I got down and I jerked the trigger and I missed. And I'm like, he's like, no, let's try again. So I recocked and then bang, it went right in.
Yeah.
So like that's cool because it's repeatable, right? He told me like hold it there, and it went exactly where he said it was going to go. Right?
Yeah.
So then a couple weekends ago we went out and sort of like to take a side trip. There's a group of guys in Taiwan who do this as well.
Yeah.
And their farthest shot in video is 500 feet.
Jesus.
Also with an SRS.
Jesus.
So we
an
went
airsoft
out
gun.
An airsoft gun, right? And that's long.
Yeah.
So we went out to the Ontario Airsoft Operators Field, Doyle Field near Cambridge.
Okay.
And we set up a target at 500 feet. So we had a target and we had a tarp behind it so we could tell when we were getting close.
So you can see like the impacts and the misses and stuff,
Yeah.
and like trace you around, right?
And being Canada in the spring, it was windy, really, really windy, which is not ideal.
For sure. What weight BBs are you using?
0.5, right? So we actually got it on target. It took an hour, but we got it on the target. And then Craig was hitting the target consistently at 500 feet in high wind. So he's like, okay, you want to try it? I'm like, yep. So one of the guys out with us was Nick Rack, who's another guy that's big into sniping. And he's like, I want to stand in front of the target. That seems weird to real still guys, but in the ELR community, it's common for guys to be up near the target to
It's
call
an
the
airsoft
shots.
gun.
It's not going to hurt anyone.
It's not going to hurt anybody, especially not that far.
So Craig kind of explained to me like where he'd been holding and stuff, and I'm like, well, there's a fence post to the left of the target. That's the wind's going left to right, and we put flags out, and you can see the wind what it's doing.
Cool. Yeah.
Right, and it kept changing, but I'm like, it's going left to right now. So I held on that fence post and I fired, and it went around, like it went out and around, and Nick saw it curving around his head and hit the target in front of him, and that's a pretty cool feeling in high wind at that extreme range. Right?
Yeah, for airsoft. That's sick.
So we're trying to develop that part of the sniping community now. So we're starting a competition called Extreme Long Range Airsoft Competition, ELR. So we're going to run a series of events that are based around doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you guys were supposed to have one. And then
The first one's coming in May.
Yes.
Our Tekken 2 day.
Yes.
COVID is messing with that because we need to go out and actually run through the stages and set up the stages, and things keep getting shut down on us. So hopefully this will work out. But the idea is that we're trying to encourage guys to shoot out at the extreme edge of their rifle's effectiveness and how to do that. So we're working on building what's called like dope cards. So dope is data over previous engagements.
Yeah.
So you take your rifle and
that's what they use for like real snipers.
Just
right? It's what's sometimes taped onto
you can
the
see
stock.
the cards, right?
Yeah.
So ideally, you should be able to go out to a target at 300 feet and go, I'm going to hold, your scope has dots. The crosshairs, and most of us have mil dots. So at that distance, I'm going to hold 2 mil dots up, and there's a bit of a wind, so I'm going to hold a mil dot to the left. And based on your dope card, you should know that. So your first shot should hit. So that's kind of what we're trying to encourage.
That's cool.
And develop to happen.
You guys should be like writing guides and stuff. I'm sure you
That's
guys
coming.
are. And like you guys are also going to sell glass, right? Have you talked to like Vortex
Eventually,
those guys?
yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
We're not carrying glass yet because what we found is that most of the airsoft glass
is good enough.
is not good enough.
Not good enough. Okay.
It's not, and it's not because of magnification. I was like, why do you need this max magnification? You don't. You need clarity because you need to be able to see, like a real shooter. At long range, you see trace. Like when a bullet goes through, you can see it.
You can actually see it. It's crazy.
It looks like a mirage, but you can see it.
Yeah.
So a spotter, if you're working a real rifle, a spotter would be watching, going and seeing your trace and going, you hit to the left at just as much. With airsoft, you're looking for the BB.
BB trace.
And BB trace, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the airsoft glass you can't see it.
Yeah, it's garbage.
So you need like more, like Craig runs Vortex stuff.
Yeah.
Which is like real steel, really good quality sights.
Yeah.
So that you can see the BB at the far range.
Yeah.
I have like a $300 spotting scope that we set up so we can do that when we're spotting.
Yeah,
right?
but even Vortex, like probably their lower end optics, like a strike fire, is probably way better than any airsoft scope, I would imagine. Yeah. And that's not.
And then the other problem
crazy
with some of the airsoft stuff is we see it at starts a lot where guys come out and they've got airsoft glass on. And you go to zero the rifle and you're turning and nothing's ever happening. And it's a magnified scope that the crosshairs mean nothing because you can never adjust them.
Yeah.
Right? So
there's a problem with red dots like that too.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a buddy on the team that did that. He came out and I went to zero and I'm like, I have turned it all the way to the left and
it's not moving at all, or it's not moving enough, and it's like the housing itself is busted.
Yeah. So we haven't started carrying with a real glass yet because it's very expensive.
Yeah.
So we're gonna build up the rest of our inventory before we make that
Yeah, and I think what's cool about that is like when you kind of create the market being like, hey, this is the product and you need this to support it. It's like, okay, I have this awesome gun, and it's like, okay, well, I need something cool to use it.
We're joking about like how much our ELR guns are going to be worth by the time we're done with them.
Yeah,
it's just like upgrade after upgrade.
It's just like me and Zim's AGs. Yeah, for sure. So that's some pretty interesting stuff about snipers and sniper rifles and that kind of ELR stuff that I didn't really know about. I mean, 500 feet is like triple the range of most airsoft engagements and guns.
Yeah.
For a newbie sniper, let's say they played a bit and they want to get into it, what would you recommend, like, kind of the steps to do so? I don't know. It's probably, like, a lot right now, but,
Yeah, so, like, my thing, like, buy a good sniper rifle. Like, don't buy the cheapest one on the market. Start researching how to do the upgrades.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in our market, like, Craig is really happy to talk to guys about how to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then start practicing. So go out and start shooting. Get your gun zeroed properly. If you don't know how to zero a rifle, find someone who can teach you how to do that.
Yeah, we actually have a video on that for AEGs, and it isn't too different.
It's pretty similar.
It's pretty similar, so you guys can check that out. It's the same shit, really. Yeah.
Practice that a lot. And then I'm not a big fan of buying a pre-made ghillie. A lot of them are not the right color. And I think that as a sniper, in my experience, patience is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, my Viper hood, like, I built from scratch. I bought the base hood off Amazon,
Yeah,
just
so
the uncovered
netting,
hood.
yeah.
And then I made, like, I dyed, cut, all the stuff that goes on it. That's about 60 hours of work.
Yeah,
Of
that's kind of the
painstaking
fun.
work. That's part of the fun, and
Yeah.
it teaches you patience. So I'm a big thing, like, you should do that, right?
Yeah.
You can buy leaf suits and stuff, and a basic leaf suit will work, but, like, if you buy a craft one you can craft, all the better, and it's your personal suit, right? And then practice a lot.
Yeah.
The stock that I described earlier, if you can get some buddies to do that with you, like, that's the best way to get good at not being seen.
Yeah. I almost want to just do the stalking part to just learn about moving
You should come do a
outdoors.
stock sometime. It's a lot of fun.
I think, like, outside of even sniping, like, I played at a few woods games last year when the COVID lockdowns weren't as bad, and, like, I did pretty okay, but I would love to learn how to move through the woods more stealthily and without being seen, because I feel like, why get in a gunfight when I can just get around them and create a shooting? Like, that's cool. Yeah. We'll include the links down to, you guys got a site going on right now? Okay, so we'll include links down to that below. Check it out. It really helps the community out. And getting into the community and getting into stuff, of course, with everything going on right now, there is, OL C21. And if you don't know what that is, where have you been? But we do have some information on that. You guys can visit savingairsoft.ca for all the information regarding that stuff. But you are starting a small business now. We're a small business operating a field. And you have been helping out, with ASIC, which is Airsoft in Canada, which is kind of, I don't know how you would describe it, like a collective, like a...
Advocacy organization.
Advocacy organization, at this point, yeah. For saving our sport, keeping it alive. And what's been going on with that lately? Like, a lot of people are asking, is it banned yet? What's going on? It's like,
so if we have our way, it will never be banned. That would be what I tell people when they ask me that question.
Right.
I think that we stand a very good chance of preventing that from happening at this stage. So you may kind of go over like where we're at.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people, we talked to some stakeholders and stuff lately, and I think a lot of people just don't know where we're at because the government, being the government, is terrible at being easy to understand.
So it's a bit of a thing to understand.
Yeah, so let's go over it, kind of a TLDR, but what's going on.
So the bill's been introduced. It's had its first reading, and it's had its second reading now. It's actually still in the process of having its second reading, so there has to be another debate about it. And then,
for those who don't know, Bacon has a background in political science, so he knows what he's talking about. More than me.
So it has to be voted from, in its next reading, it should be voted into what's called committee phase. So it'll go before the SECU, which is like the Security Committee for Canada. And that committee is comprised of politicians from the Liberals, the Conservatives, the NDP, and the Bloc. And on that committee, what happens is expert witnesses are called to talk about the potential impact of the bill, why it's necessary or why it's not necessary. And there can be amendments made. So, I mean, we'd like to see the portion of the bill that deals with mid-velocity replicas, which is what paintball or airsoft guns are, and some paintball guns actually. We'd like to see that removed. Better still, we'd like to see the whole bill killed because there are a lot of problems with it.
Yes.
You and Simming talked about the
advertising portion.
The
advertising portion, horrible for especially my job and your job too, potentially, right?
Yeah. It's not well, and really, from my perspective, it's entirely it's about politics.
Yeah.
It's about trading Canadians' rights for votes. That's my view on it.
Yeah.
Right, that shouldn't be happening.
For sure.
Regardless of your view on guns or whatever, like that should never be acceptable to any Canadian to see that kind of stuff happening. So that's where we're at now. We're waiting for it to go into committee. So there's a lot of ASICs, reaching out to members of that committee to talk to them, to educate them on airsoft. From what we're seeing, the problem here is that the government didn't know anything about us.
Yeah.
They were aware that airsoft guns were a thing,
Yeah.
and certainly the police chiefs, so the CACP, the Canadian Chiefs of Police organization.
Yeah, which is the kind of the biggest organization lobbying for this bill.
Yeah, so like they're very anti-replicas because they're concerned that officers are going to encounter these and shoot someone that they shouldn't.
Yeah.
That's understandable, although I don't think this is a solution to that problem for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
But there was no realization that there was this big community of players. There's like 30,000 or so of us in Canada playing responsibly.
At least.
There's 300 businesses we've found so far in the business outreach
that
are either entirely airsoft based or airsoft and paintball based, or in some cases they're tactical supply companies that are also selling to airsoft players, so we buy a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Like boots and gloves and whatever.
And they're estimating there's probably over 1,000 people employed in Canada in that, over $100 million in economic activity.
They didn't know right here.
They didn't know any of that from what we can tell. So we're now trying to change that, and we've had a lot of success. Shannon Stubbs took information we gave her, and she used that during the second reading to
that was
really
crazy.
take apart. Bill Blair's arguments.
We got some name drops down there. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
So that's what's going on right now. There's a lot of organization going on because there's a need for a national organization.
Yes.
Both to organize and to advocate for the sport. I mean, there's stuff that, from a player's perspective, most players probably aren't aware of the problems with the CBSA that we encounter with shops and stuff where they hold stuff they shouldn't.
Well, it's very common to see in the comments for a lot of stores and stuff like that. Why aren't you restocking this? Why aren't you restocking that? It's not like these retailers don't want your money.
They CBS is holding them.
Yes, exactly.
So a national organization, beyond dealing with this issue, C21, would be able to talk to the CBSA and say, hey, you're doing these things that you shouldn't be doing, or let's work on how we can solve these problems. A national organization would be able to advocate to make airsoft fully legal in Canadian law,
not just not illegal.
Yeah,
it makes it fully legal and recognized, right?
So that's being worked on right now, and that's an enormous task.
Yeah,
some of the guys, Delta Stone.
Yes, he'll be on here soon.
Yeah, that guy hasn't slept, I don't think, in a month now.
Yeah,
from what I can tell.
Yeah, Airsoft Nostradamus.
The amount of work he's put in. Sharon Arbuthnot, huge amount of effort put in to organize this.
Yeah.
And trying to go across Canada and talk to all of the different communities and get them all on board is an enormous task because, they're varying degrees of fractured, or they don't talk to each other or whatever, and we have to try to bridge all those gaps and get everyone on the same page. So that's a lot of work. And then there's different stuff going on. So you do a lot of the social media graphics and stuff.
Yeah, I do a lot of the graphics and stuff like that. And I should be kind of getting back more into it because I had some stuff going on. But, there's been a lot going on. And even for me, I'm a little bit lost about what's going on because it's moving so quickly.
Yeah. And then, so I do different things. So I do some of the public-facing videos now.
Yeah, a lot of the community outreach.
Yeah, community outreach. I'm responsible for, I guess we call it influence operations. So I set up networks to put our message out to people. I'm also involved in some of the political stuff, like doing analysis and stuff like that. And I think one of my big roles is I sit in our meetings and just try to see what's going on so I can see what needs to be communicated to people, and I watch for potential problems. So you've been in a meeting with me, I'll sit quietly for a long time, then I'm like, hey, have we thought about this?
Yeah.
So I do a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of work. A lot of work involved.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And what do you think, where are we going with it? What's the direction moving in? It's a bit of a big question, but a lot of people are saying, what's happening, right? But I think they have to understand that the government in Canada is a
slow-moving thing.
Oh yeah, it's pretty darn slow, and you could probably see that with the way things are going on out there.
So kind of my feel from what we've seen happen is that when we first started talking, we had people mailing their MPs. We talked about it a lot, and the initial response from a lot of Liberal MPs was a canned response that basically said, "We're not trying to ban airsoft. We're just trying to ban dangerous replicas."
Which is
and the way they described it is like every gun we own.
Right? Yeah. So it's we're not trying to ban racing. We're just trying to ban cars.
So that was frustrating.
Yeah.
And it was some political doublespeak, but I think to a large degree it was born out of ignorance. I think that they didn't understand that what they were doing was going to have the impact it did.
I keep telling people, sorry to interrupt, to keep writing, because it's not about like what they say back. It's the fact that they kicked a bee's nest.
Yep.
They need to know that they kicked a bee's nest. Whether they respond back with the same copy and paste letter is that part doesn't matter.
So it's that they're seeing the letters coming in.
If they're seeing letter come in, they see that like, hey, these are a bunch of people that we pissed off. Yeah.
So and we saw that actually had an impact because the messaging coming back from those changed. Mm-hmm. And so suddenly we got messages back saying, look, we don't want to impact your sport, and maybe it'll be okay if the guns have orange tips.
Yeah, or they're colored.
Or they're colored. Like that. And we've talked about this with ASIC, but that's not really a solution. It causes a lot of other problems. But what it meant is that they're looking for a way out of this. They realize that they've got themselves into a problem with the airsoft. We know that the Conservatives and the NDP came out right away and supported our position.
Yep.
And so like the Liberals who are trying to get this bill passed, it's making a problem for them. So they're looking for a solution now, which is good, right? Because now they want to find some. They're not just like, let's just ban it. They want to look at what actually is going on.
Yeah.
What would have been better would have been consultation up front.
Yeah.
That's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
But now we're in a position where it's consultation after the fact, but before the bill gets passed.
Yeah.
Right. My feeling is that we're going to be able to get to a solution that is allows us to keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
But we're going to need a national organization going forward that is going to be able to take steps to make sure that the actual legit problems get addressed.
Yes.
So full legalization, but we're going to need to take steps to make sure that there is responsible ownership, that people aren't misusing these things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. ASIC will continue to work to advocate for airsoft, and it's going to be a long fight. I think that's what people have to understand is their government is super slow. There's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of procedures and a lot of ways that things work, and I don't remember too much from a civics class, as you can tell, but there's a lot of...
It's complicated, and it'll be, my expectation, it'll be slow, and then sudden.
Yes, right? Which is kind of what it was. I mean, there's a lot of things happening around airsoft, and then all of a sudden, bam, C21 dropped, so, there's waves, right?
I mean, I was... Because I'm involved with the real firearms community to a degree as well, so I was... not surprised kind of to see airsoft get attacked in this way. I was just surprised that there was no warning.
Yeah,
that it came out of nowhere. I woke up one day and it was like, I got a million messages about C21. What's this?
In a way, for at least me working in the industry, there was a bit of a direct warning with like suddenly after the OIC, like a lot of packages were getting really hard to get in, and it's like
in hindsight, right?
Yeah, in hindsight, like you're like, oh. It's like, this looks kind of, but hindsight's always 20/20. You can always look at the patterns and interpolate from that. But for the average player out there, and this is one question that I have on our list here, is for the average player out there that doesn't really know what to do, what would you say they can do to help fight C21 for like the everyday airsofter?
So there's a bunch of things they can do. So one, pay a lot of attention to the information we're putting out because we're doing our best to get you informed about what's needed and what's happening.
Yes.
2, write your MPs. Handwritten letters are best, if possible. Form letters acceptable, but handwritten letters better.
Handwritten meaning emailed or mailed or both?
Mailed.
Mailed?
Physically delivered, even better.
Okay.
Right?
Damn.
Always follow what I call the 3 R's. So we need to be reasonable, rational, and relatable.
Okay.
So I see people get upset about this, and I understand that because I've lived in a state of near constant rage for a month now over this. But
tell me about it.
But swearing and being rude to your MP will be not at all helpful.
Yes. They already see us as a bunch of crazy people with toy guns. We don't want to actually be that.
Yes. And so that's the next part, is that our sport has an image problem because we look like a militia, which we're not, and all of us inside understand that.
Yeah.
But to the outside, that can be misleading in terms of how we look. So the next important thing is talk to your friends and family about airsoft. Explain to them what it is. Explain to them that it's not this big, threatening, scary thing, that we're not preparing for war. We're just having fun.
Yes.
Right? This is fun. And one of the key points that you have to go over with airsoft is that people will look at what we're doing going, I don't understand why that is fun.
Yeah.
That's okay. I don't understand why hockey is fun. Which is weird as a Canadian, but like that doesn't mean that I don't think
I'm on the same boat as you.
Yeah. Right? Like,
I'm terrible, but I'm on the same boat as you.
It's not my ability to understand that hockey or any other sport should be legal isn't contingent on my understanding why it's fun.
Yes.
It's just if you enjoy doing it, then that's cool, right?
Yes.
And airsoft is the same. And then one of the points that's very helpful for people is I see some of the people who object to airsoft or support Bill C-21, they're like, it's a gateway. And they see it as a gateway to real firearms, and they think that it glorifies firearms violence. So here's my point, my counterpoint to that. So I played paintball for 9 years. I've played airsoft for 8 years. Martial arts in between. My one conclusion from all this is that I never, ever want to be involved in a real gunfight.
Yeah.
I want nothing to do with it because every time I play, I get shot. Right? And it doesn't matter how good I get at it or how much time I spend training, I'm still getting shot doing this.
Yeah.
So it has exactly, in my mind, and I bet you're the same, exactly the opposite effect of what people think it does who say that stuff. It teaches you don't want to be involved in firearms violence at all.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think what's actually interesting is the more serious you get into it, and this is something that I find kind of interesting is just like, two respectful high-level martial artists, when they beat the crap out of each other, there's always a level of respect.
Mutual respect.
Yeah. Because it's like, we did this, But I find the same thing with like higher level of airsoft, whether it be Hunteering, big mill sims, even like skirmishes here when you have more experienced players, is that you understand that this is a game.
Yep.
And this isn't real life. And
it's mutual respect, right?
Yeah.
So when I did judo, one of the things that I was taught is that you can't practice judo without an uki, a training partner.
Yeah.
So you have to treat your training partner with respect. The same thing happens in airsoft.
Yeah.
You need to treat the other people around you with respect because you can't play by yourself. Right?
Yeah.
So that's what you can do as a regular player, those things.
Yeah.
Talk to people, contact your MP, pay attention to what's going on.
Yeah.
Right?
Please pay attention to what's going on, guys. I know most of you guys watching videos are probably the ones that are keeners, but I'm going to say it. We get a lot of people that call asking if Siege is open during coronavirus.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on, guys. Like, we need to be a bit more attentive than this,
We need to pay attention to what's going on right now.
And I think the important thing about C21 is that no matter what kind of player you are, if you're like a milsim, speed softer, skirmish player, new player, this affects you.
Yeah, we're all in the same boat now.
Yeah, we're all in the same boat, and that's kind of the silver lining to it, is that it brings us together, and it goes to show the people that don't understand us that, hey, we come from all walks of life. We come from all different backgrounds. We just come together for this activity. Yeah. And yeah. In terms of direct things you can do, I guess we have the new petition that's still ongoing.
Yeah, so there's a petition that the CCFR sponsored.
Yes.
And so I've talked about this, and I understand one of the differences between, say, the airsoft community and the firearms community is that the airsoft community is politically diverse.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
There are the firearms community tends to be overwhelmingly conservative.
Yes.
For a variety of reasons. Airsofters are the whole spectrum.
Yes.
Of politics.
Yes.
That being said, while you might not be pro-gun, and there's lots of airsofters who aren't,
and we're not gonna really get into that. There's a lot of reasons for that. Sure, whatever.
That's fine.
Yeah.
This particular petition, no matter where it came from, it still has the same objective of trying to get rid of this bill that's impacting all of us. Mm-hmm. So please sign that.
Yeah.
We have the survey going still.
Yes.
Right.
Super important.
So fill out the survey because that provides us, for those of us going forward to argue to MPs, it provides us with analytical information about what our community is like, who's being impacted,
how much money you spend on airsoft, and like, I'll be honest, it's actually pretty fun to fill out because everybody loves talking about themselves, and you can kind of talk about yourself in a way that actually makes a difference.
Yeah.
And if you got time to go buy a gun or watch a 20-minute review on the gun you already have, then I think you have time to fill out the survey.
Right.
Gonna be a bit snide about it, but it's true.
And then, so one of the key points that come out of that was, as we kind of just touched on, is that it talks about will C21 affect how you vote, and we're seeing a lot of people that it does.
Yeah.
And from a politician's point of view, if you're a liberal politician,
that's
for example,
terrifying.
That's a bad thing because what's happened is that you're recognizing that if someone's changing the vote based on this, they're not voting for you.
Yeah.
They were your voter, and now they're voting for the Conservatives or the NDP.
Yep.
Right, or the Bloc.
Yep.
So that makes politicians pay attention. So it's an important thing. So those are the two real direct things they can do right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And those are pretty easy things to do. You don't really need to do much. The form's already pretty much filled out for you. You just need to check the options, and we'll include the links for that as well. There's going to be a lot of links down below, so just keep that in mind. So kind of to end things off a bit, Mike, you've been a big supporter of Siege for a long time. We've been around for almost 6 years now.
Yeah.
Jeez. And we super appreciate all of you done. You've helped us run events here at times. You've helped volunteer, promoting our space. And as you know, during this pandemic, we're closed for public play, and we actually gave you a cool little coin right there. Bam. Because, for your support and for being a pillar in the community. It's a bit of a self-promoted question, but like as an aside to all of this, how have you been liking how we've been kind of moving forward? Because I know from pandemic to now, I'm sure a lot of you out there and you know that the image around our field has changed a lot.
Yep.
And what's your kind of reaction to us doing that.
So I'm very happy with what you guys have been doing. I'm obviously not, well, maybe not obviously, but I'm not a big skirmish player.
Yeah, totally fair. Yeah.
I like watching Speedsoft tournaments and stuff.
Yes.
And if I was young and fast, I'd probably play that. But I'm not that interested in playing against Speedsofters in regular games.
I love it, by the way. I love playing it with and against you guys. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm not saying anything wrong with Speedsoft. I love that element of the sport too. You guys have been doing more milsim stuff, which is more into my wheelhouse. So I like those changes. I like the videos you've been doing where you're educating people about not just how to set up your gear, but why it's set up the way it is.
Yeah.
So I really like the new direction. And when this eventually lifts, COVID, I'm looking forward to be able to come out and doing some of the scenario nights and stuff you've been putting on.
Yeah.
That's really what I'm into.
Yeah, those are really fun. And actually, I think it'd be fun if you were at the helm for leading, like Op4 or, you know, the MT, the mission teams and stuff like that. That'd be really cool. And, yeah, we even got like the Apex guys in here to do some of the training. That was awesome. But, like, what would you like to see moving forward from us? Like, what can we provide for the community? Do you think that would be of a big assistance,
So, I guess, as general terms, I like the direction you're going with, the more realistic scenario stuff. More of the training is cool.
Yeah.
I like to see, even at just a basic level, like more training about how to play Airsoft.
Yeah.
About safety, about conduct, how tactics work, just stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think it helps build the community. The hurdle to get into Airsoft is very low, and that's cool. But the consequence of that is that people get in and they really don't know what they don't know. And it can be hard for them to learn how to get better.
And I think a problem with that is the hurdle to get in is low, but the hurdle to get good is actually
high.
Is actually quite high.
Yeah.
And a lot of things that you learn in video games and a lot of things you learn from YouTube don't really translate to, damn, I'm wearing all this stuff. It's heavy. I have to move around this door and like, my bungee cord gets caught into the frame, and I didn't realize that can happen, right? Yeah. So yeah, we would love to do some more tactic stuff. I think the difficulty with doing tactic stuff is people like to be chairborne commandos. We posted a video on ready positions, and people were like, "Oh, that's not how you do it." So it's like, there's a lot of stuff like that, but I think it's just about pushing the message forward, and I think you guys are doing a great thing with the long range stuff, and I would love for you guys to host another class here sometime.
Yep.
Maybe covering different topics, maybe like learning how to build a hide or not even hide, but like a ghillie suit. Like we can provide space. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Well, that about wraps things up for today's episode 2 of Chairsoft Chat, and thanks a lot, Michael, for coming out. I learned a lot, and I think I got a lot closer to you because we mostly existed kind of in the same space, but we never really had too much of an in-depth conversation together. And I remember talking to you a few years ago, and you talking to me a few years ago, and I think my opinion has matured quite a bit, and yours has obviously matured quite a bit as well, and it's really cool. But yeah, thanks for joining us. Thank you for all your efforts into helping to save Airsoft in Canada. Remember the links to the petition, all that stuff. All relevant links will be down below. If they want to find you, how would they do that? Like, if they want to get in contact with you, if people wanted to ask you questions about things, what would be the best way?
So there's a few ways to do it. So on Instagram, I'm bacon_DW01.
Cool.
And I'm on there fairly often. My Facebook, Michael Bright.
Yeah,
on there. We're at www.ELRAirsoft.com. They can go there. I'm on the Ontario Airsoft Operators Group as a mentor. So I'm in there all the time. So there's all kinds of ways to reach out to me. I'm always happy to talk to people about Airsoft.
Yeah, for sure. It's all about the education. We're in the business of education. But yeah, any little bit of support goes a long way, guys. Be sure to fill the petitions, all that great stuff. And we look forward to seeing you here sometime soon. And thanks for coming, Mike. And I really appreciate you guys for watching. And we hope to see you soon. And take care, everybody.